Mickey Spagnola joins us now on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready hotline on 107.7 The Franchise. All right. Settle the debate between Todd and I. On the last play call for the Seattle Seahawks, your thought was what?
Oh, here was my thought when they got down to the 1 yard line was why in the hell is Bill Belichick not calling timeout? Because
said the exact same thing, Mickey.
They're just going to hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch and score, and you better save yourself some time to come back and try to kick a tying field goal. So that was my first thought. My second thought is when they lined up the way they did, I said, well, just gonna lose because they're going to hand the ball to Lynch, and then they tried to throw it and kind of outsmart themselves. So you know what, though? But what got clouded over was the kid made a hell of a play to intercept that ball. We're talking about somebody that's a backup who hardly has played, and he had studied enough to know what was coming and jumped the route. And that was a heck of a play by that kid. But, yeah, I mean, everybody in the world thought they were going to run the ball with Marshawn Lynch, so I don't know why they thought they needed to suck time off the clock. And if you wanted to suck time off the clock, what the hell are you doing throwing the ball?
This is probably an unfair question because I know that Dallas fans already think sometimes the Cowboys are too pass happy. But what would have been the reaction had that been the Cowboys in the same situation and Romo would have thrown an interception?
The earth would have exploded yesterday.
It really would have.
Right?
Marshawn Lynch is the only quarterback, one of the very few – I'm sorry, Marshawn Lynch. Russell Wilson is one of the very few quarterbacks in the NFL where the criticism for the actual quarterback is going to be fairly minimal in such a big situation, relatively speaking.
Oh yeah. And to me, and Jason Garrett would have taken holy hell.
Oh, yeah.
And both the greatest coaches in the history of the NFL really screwed up with the pressure on the line. Belichick doesn't call timeout, and the Seahawks don't do the obvious. So, it goes back to what I've told you before about decisions like that. As Bill Parcells said, whatever works is right. Whatever doesn't, it's wrong.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Mickey. I mean, I understand. I will grant you. And tell me if this is where you were. If I could maybe sum up your thoughts in a bow here and tidy up this segment here.
You're reaching now, Zach. You're trying to make yourself sound like you were right on this deal. And you were wrong. You're reaching.
No, I don't know. He can tell me if I was. That when the ball was snapped, I went, "Wow, a pass." I mean, I remember thinking that when the ball was snapped, but after that we're kind of playing the result, really, aren't we?
Oh yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, here's what I thought was going to happen. I thought it was going to be a quarterback keeper. I thought they would fake to Lynch, everybody would suck into the middle, and he would dance into the end zone.
That would have been a good call too.
As a matter of fact, I thought they were going to do it on the first play from the 5 yard line because I've seen that play work with him so much that I figured, okay, this is just too obvious. But yeah, and I agree. I mean, I would have run the ball with Marshawn Lynch, absolutely. But they thought I'm sure they thought they had something. They saw something. They had, and when they came out with 3 wide, and maybe give Belichick credit, they didn't go with their nickel defense. They basically stayed with their goal line and had all their defensive linemen on the line of scrimmage. So lined up in man coverage, and kid made a hell of a play. I mean, that's all I can say. The thing I took away from the game is it's one of those things where I'm really glad that all these perceptions that people have, because I get so tired, and I don't know where you guys stand on this, but I get so tired of hearing how defense wins championships. You got to score points to win Super Bowls. It's very rare that you score 20 points and win a Super Bowl. And I went back and looked. 7 of the last 9 Super Bowl champions scored at least 27 points to win a game. So you can have a great defense, but you better score some points. Otherwise, chances are you're not winning. As a matter of fact, I went back this morning and just for kicks to when the Cowboys won Super Bowl 27. So there's been 23 Super Bowls since, including yesterday. 17 of the 23 winners scored at least 27 points. So that was the reason why I thought New England would win the game, because they could score points, and Seattle would always struggle to score points.
Mickey Spagnola with us. I always get, and you're probably better at this than I am, Mickey. Of course, you're a smarter football mind than I am, but people always get on me for not previewing games very much. Like the Thunder play tonight, and they're like, break down the Thunder. And I'm like, how? Like, I'm much better at reacting. I'm not very good at previewing. And to me, one of the reasons why it happened in the Super Bowl, like the Super Bowl, it was a great example. For 2 weeks, everyone else broke it down, and I'm sure very eloquently, about the game. And I can guarantee you that not one of those people that eloquently broke down the Super Bowl in those 2 weeks, anyone anywhere, even the smartest football minds, mentioned the names Butler and Matthews once.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And that's why I laugh, because, and this is not to pick on my buddies at the morning news here, but I don't know how many people picked the game. Say there was 10. I think only one person picked New England to win. And I was sitting there scratching my head, and I go, well, why is it that? Seattle's lucky to be in the game. It wasn't because of their defense. They were, the defense helped certainly last week. But if they don't get all the special teams plays, they're not in the ball game. They're not there. If they don't get an onside kick, if they don't get a fake field goal for a touchdown, they're not in the ball game. And what made me really scratch my head is, and I can't remember if I told you guys this on Friday or not, but when I went back and I watched every play of that Seattle Cowboy game, and I'm sitting there going, you know what? The Seahawks were really fortunate to score 23 points, because if the Cowboys don't turn the ball over, 2 special teams mistakes and a inadvertent snap that was recovered at like the 20-yard line, they kicked 2 field goals against the Cowboy defense. The Cowboys would have beat them 30-6 without those mistakes. So that's why I was sitting there going, I'm just not sold on this team. And, I guess I got lucky at the end, but I just wasn't sold on their ability to score points and move the football. And I thought, and here's where I was wrong, just to go with your deal. I'm sitting there going, okay, the Cowboys were like one of just a couple teams to rush for more than 100 yards. And every team that rushed for 4 of the 6 teams that rushed for 100 yards against Seattle beat them this year. Well, there's New England. They only rushed for about 70 yards, but were able to throw for 300 and some and beat them. So, yeah, Zach, you don't know how many times I've said that. I sit there and watch a Cowboy game, and I spend a whole week analyzing what you think's going to happen, and then some goofy stuff happens on special teams, and you sit there and go, okay, all that time we spent, and here's how the game decided.
Yeah, and trust me, Mickey and I were exactly 100% in agreement leading up to the game, too, because Mickey, as a Packers fan, I thought the same thing. This Seattle team, until 2 minutes to go in regulation, didn't do anything offensively against Green Bay. So we were both right. As you said, we got kind of fortunate at the end to be right. Switching gears, Mickey, your thoughts on Charles Haley in the Hall of Fame?
Well, it was about time. It was way past time, and it's one of those things where I tried to explain to people, they want to bring up stack totals and this and that, and be very anal of analyzing this guy. But sometimes what you have to do for when you're considering Pro Football Hall of Fame or any Hall of Fame is the reason that Hall of Fame is there is to preserve the history of the game. And at this point, Charles Haley is still the only player to have won 5 Super Bowl rings. And we need to be able to tell that story, right? And there's going to be a point where, and I don't know, maybe Brady will win another one. He'll be the second person to have 5 Super Bowl rings. But until that happens, Haley is the only one. And I think that is a unique accomplishment in all these years of Super Bowl play. It's going to be 50 unless Brady wins next year again and gets 5. It'll be 50 years and only one guy's got 5 Super Bowl rings. And when we're dead and gone, somebody needs to be able to tell that story. And if you're not around having experienced it, you may not know it. So that's the duty of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, is to preserve the history, preserve the stories. That was always my argument about Bob Hayes. How could Bob Hayes not be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame? How long it took for him to get in there. A guy that changed the way defenses played because of his speed, and people would argue, well, he doesn't deserve to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. In the Ice Bowl, he was keeping his hands in his pocket. Well, he was smarter than everybody else. He didn't leave the game with a frostbite. So to me, the Haley thing, it's been long overdue, and I think some people that might have been voting harbored animosity towards him because he wasn't the most friendly person to the media. Well, you know what? That's not a qualification to get in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
And not to mention, Mickey, he also was a pass rush specialist, which he kind of ushered in a new position in the NFL, right? I mean, he was the first guy that was that third down pass rush specialist that was that good at it.
Yeah, but see, and that's the perception that he was a third down pass rush specialist. He was awfully good as an every down, hand on the ground defensive end.
Late in his career, he became a third down guy, right?
Well, late, like
right.
95. When he got to the Cowboys, he provided the physical, badass nature that they needed on their defense to get over the hump and to start winning Super Bowls. He changed the nature of that team. You know, he made them tough. He made them mean. They kind of adopted his nature, and he was awfully good against the run, setting that edge over there. And you go talk to any of those offensive tackles that had to play against him, they hated that Sunday when they had to play against Charles Haley because they knew that it would be an all-day sucker and that he would do whatever was necessary to beat them. And they were afraid of him because they thought he was crazy. As Butch Davis said, the Cowboys defensive line coach, I saw a story last week. They interviewed him about Charles Haley, and he called him a lunatic. He was probably close to right when the guy played. He was crazy.
I've heard someone say, I can't remember who it was, but I heard an offensive tackle say once, Zach, and this kind of tells you how good Haley was, that the two that you hated to block were Reggie White and Charles Haley. And if you're in company with Reggie White, I mean, that's pretty good company to be in.
You go ask Nate Newton who he hated to go up against, and it was always Reggie White and Jerome Brown. You know, he hated to have to play him, and we're talking about a guy that was selected to 6 Pro Bowls as an offensive guard / tackle, and he hated to go against Reggie White. And I've heard the same thing about Reggie White, Jerome Brown, and Charles Haley.
Mick, I'm sure we'll talk, a handful of times leading up to the draft. Oh, dear Lord, that you just reminded me that oh my gosh, are we going to drive this draft into the ground? Holy moly. All right. But
wait, what? We only got like 3 months to talk about it.
Thank goodness, too. Could you imagine how big a story Johnny Manziel would be if he was with the Cowboys and then going to rehab?
Oh, man, that would have been wild.
That's why the Cowboys were so smart not to draft him. Right?
Well, Stephen Jones was smart.
And you know what? And I still think the story got exaggerated about Jerry being that close to drafting him. And I'll say it once again: when you watch the War Room cam, when they already had the name of Ryan Shazier on the card to take him. And then Pittsburgh took them the pick before, and then they started scrambling, and they were scrambling to trade down because they wanted DeMarcus Lawrence at the end of the first round, and they couldn't find anybody to trade with. That's what they took up all their time when they were on the clock, not discussing Johnny.
How are you not in that room, Mickey? I mean, for crying out loud, you get a paycheck from them. They should have you in the room.
Even Mickey doesn't get to see how the sausage is made.
That's ridiculous.
They would shoot me if I went through that door.
See you later, Mickey.
It would have been great if the War Room camera would have caught Stephen Jones tackling Jerry, though, as he's trying to...
Oh, that would have been better.
No, don't do it.
Would have been a better story.
And here's the other part of the story is that the card is not in Jerry's hand. It's in New York.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Dave, why are you letting facts get in the way of a really good story?
I know. I hate when I do that.
You probably think Lee Harvey Oswald was a lone gunman, too, don't you?
Yeah.
I absolutely do.
See you later, Mickey.
Thanks, Mickey.
See you guys.
All right, Mickey Spagnola on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready Hotline.